Let's do a teardown of the BinBok Pro controller and see if we can fix it. Welcome to 128KB, my name's Andy, and if you're new to the channel, go down there, hit the like and subscribe and share this video around because it really helps us out. So yeah, basically, if you've not seen our previous video, BinBok sent us two controllers, the Pro controllers with like a cracked design on them, to basically just see what our opinions were. And we did a first look and unboxing, and then we were gonna do a review. But now we're doing this video in between because in our unboxing and first look, well, the black controller is absolutely fine. Oh, and before I go any further, we are doing a giveaway of the black version of this. And if you want to enter that giveaway, then make sure you're subscribed and wait for our full review of this controller, because in that video, we'll be doing the giveaway essentially. But anyway, in the unboxing review, this controller had a sticky Y button, and the Y button, basically when you pressed it down, it just got stuck. So it just stayed there. So the controller was useless because, you know, the controller, it didn't work. The buttons didn't work, okay? So the buttons didn't work. So I thought, well, yes, we're gonna contact BinBok to see what their reply is, just to see, you know, what they would do if you actually purchased one of these. And we are still waiting for that reply. So we'll feature that in the review. But in the meantime, I thought, you know what? Let's take the controller apart and fix this. And this probably doesn't just affect this controller. If you've got a sticky button, then this video may help you, even if it's not actually this controller. But yeah, we're gonna take this controller apart and see if we can fix it. Spoiler alert, I fixed it. Let's get started. So first of all, what I did was turn the controller over and removed all the screws on the back of the controller. And you want to make sure that you sort of put them in the right place, because the top two screws towards the top are actually a bit smaller than the rest. So just take those off and then gently sort of pull the back of the controller out. And that will reveal the two boards that are inside, the rumble sort of packs that are in the bottom, and they're just loose as well. And then sort of everything else that you can see there. There are some ribbon cables that we will need to remove, but first of all is trying to hunt down the screws that we need to remove, because on first inspection I actually didn't find them all and I couldn't get the boards out, and then I realized, oh, I'm just missing a couple of screws that I haven't taken out. So take those screws out and be careful not to lose them, just put them to the side and then take those screws out just there. You will see the battery stuck on the top board underneath a black cover. I initially thought I had to remove this, but I didn't, so that whole sort of top board does come apart. But make sure you remove the ribbon cables that are there, and be very careful with these because they are really delicate as well if you're going to attempt this. So if you're going to do this, remove those. And there is on the far right another sort of connection there that had been kind of glued on. I had to break the glue off to then be able to remove that connection. And that was fine, it was just holding it in place. It seats in there well enough without that piece of glue, so you don't need to redo that. So after that, that sort of top board kind of comes out, and you can remove the shoulder buttons and that sort of plastic bit that houses the USB-C cable, but I actually left them in because I didn't realize that you could pull them out until a bit later. But yeah, so I wiggled those out, and then the actual board itself kind of comes away, the main board as well. And then underneath that is our joysticks, and also where our buttons will be pushing as well. So once that's removed, you can actually take those joystick like caps out. So you could replace these if you really needed to for any reason. But yeah, take those out, and then you're left with the sort of all the buttons underneath. Now I kept the controller facing down because if you turn it around, they are just loosely sat there. So all the buttons will just scatter everywhere. So be careful not to just lose all of your buttons, because you don't want to lose them, because it might be a bit of a pain trying to find them again. So you do have the sort of membrane for the face buttons and the D-pad as well, and those sit on tiny little sort of like little spikes that hold them in place. So you do want to put these back in place if you need to. But my suspicions were that the paint is what was causing the issue on this controller, because the way that this controller is designed, there's like a cracked paint design and it is painted onto a plastic shell. So my issue, or at least my assumption, was that this paint was simply too thick, and that was causing the Y button to be depressed and then not come back out. So what I did was I got some very fine, about 1000 grit sandpaper, and I just rolled that up into a circle, and then I put it inside the hole, and I just sanded away the paint. Essentially, I just filed the paint away, just kept doing that until I put the button back in, and then put the membrane over the top, and then sort of saw if that button kind of came back or not. And then once I'd sanded it down enough, well, then I could put it back together. And again, assembly, first time round, I actually lost some of the buttons, so I had to go find them because I moved it and they rolled out. So I had to make sure I put them back in, and then it's pretty much just a sort of thing of putting it back together, making sure that the triggers are in the right place, making sure everything's lined back up. The trickiest bit was actually getting the joystick caps to line up again with the actual joystick sort of housing and the metal joystick arm in the center. But once I'd done that, it was pretty much plain sailing. Everything just goes back the way it came, and then you've just got to replace the screws. You've got to be careful to put those ribbon cables back in carefully, because there's a tiny little latch that flips up, and then ideally you need some very fine tweezers to be able to guide it into place and then lock those caps back down. And then pretty much that's all there is to it. Replace the screws and put the back shell back together. Make sure everything's fine before you screw it back together. Make sure the buttons are, you know, working fine. So here, mine are absolutely fine now, and you can see that Y button absolutely works fine. There's no issue now. So with this controller in particular, it was the paint that was an issue. And again, BinBok, if you are watching this, your biggest issue is your paint coverage. I love the design, by the way. I'm not bashing the design. I really like the design of the controller, especially with the RGBs, which I don't know if you'll see, but there are RGBs in here that shine through those cracks. But your biggest problem is that paint coverage around the edges of the joysticks, which will generally, like over time, rub away, and all the sort of debris from that will go inside the controller and could cause issues. And again, for the buttons, well, really there needs to be like a good couple of millimeters masking taped off that doesn't get painted, so that this issue that I've had doesn't happen again. But you know, I fixed it by sanding that paint away. Luckily, on the black controller, the paint doesn't seem as thick, and well, there's no issues whatsoever with the face buttons, but there still is an issue with the joysticks where the paint actually goes in. It looks cool, but really it shouldn't be there because that will cause an issue. But there we go. So that was a teardown of the BinBok Pro controller with the cracked design. And as much as they look really cool, that is an issue you might run into. Now, the first thing I'd say is don't jump to trying to repair it like I did. I'd probably get in contact with BinBok first and just say, look, I'm having a problem. I think it's because of the paint. Can you replace it for me? I have contacted BinBok to ask them what their procedure would be and what they would do if someone had this issue, if they would replace it for free and whatever. So we will find out what they say, and we will feature that in the review video. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, we are giving the black one of these away. It's going to be a giveaway, so make sure you're subscribed and you like this video, and that you turn up for the review video where the giveaway will be held. But anyway, go down there, hit that like and subscribe. Check out our website, 128kb.co.uk. I'm Andy. Thanks for watching. Bye.